Good evening, Mr. van der Wulp, representative of the Dutch government on our islands, Mrs. Timmermans, representative of the Dutch government on Aruba. It is a great pleasure to see in the room today so many business leaders, members of parliament, colleagues in government, and so many investors and people that are looking at the opportunity in order for Aruba to make another important step towards the future. A very important political and government leader in the beginnings of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, at a certain moment said that every so now and then you need to have a revolution in a country. And you would believe that Mr. Jefferson was referring to something aggressive of turning over the country. But Mr. Jefferson was one of the drafters of the Constitution of the United States. So a very democratic person. He wasn't thinking about a revolution in order to overtake government in a non-democratic way. But Mr. Jefferson was thinking about the need that every country and every people so now and then have to take their political, their social and economical system and put it to the bright light of a new day and look at it and evaluate if it still is accomplishing its important task, if it still will fulfill the needs of the country and the community to prosper. And Aruba has done the same over the centuries. If there's something that Arubans can be very proud of, we are a very small island, very small population. But there's something very unique on this very small island and this very small population. It is, I don't know how it is, but it is that every so often, like Jefferson said, there is a new generation that looks at our system and asks themselves some very fundamental questions. Is this the political system, the social economic model that will bring prosperity and sustainability for our society? And when our forefathers stood up on this very dry island so many years ago, an island that had only 20,000 inhabitants, and they claimed for this island a harbor as the larger island Curaçao, which was the central location for all commerce and business of the Kingdom of the Netherlands at that time. Many people thought, from where do these people get this pretension and ambition to have a harbor as big as the larger island where all the commerce and business of, at that time, the West Indian Company of the Netherlands was triumphing. But those leaders had a vision. And when you have a vision, the other day I was speaking to the board of ATIA and Chamber of Commerce. It is something great, but it is also a burden. Because when you present your vision for something that you see at a very long distance, there are many people that won't understand. There are many people that will not immediately buy into the idea, but you have to stand steadfast. You have to overcome those difficult moments, years, and stand for what you believe. Carry the burden of trying to convince them day after day that that really is a vision that will change things, make things better, and create new opportunities for your country and your society. And that is what the leaders in Aruba has done 100 years ago, 75 years ago, 50 years ago, 25 years ago, and that is what we are doing today. When we thought about that harbor, and today is so automatic that we have so many cruise ships coming there every day, we just take it for granted. But those leaders that stood 100 years ago and said, we want that harbor for Aruba, it was not that easy. So when I hear Mr. Moons today talk about TNO's work in Aruba, Mr. Koenraad talk about new software that will be exporting from Aruba, Mr. Rukroes talking about how Aruba is bringing together Dutch technology, Dutch vision and ideas, combine it with Aruba's ability to translate that into new markets. When I hear Mr. Kelboom speak about the fact that Aruba will be having the first waste-to-gas, waste-to-energy plant in this whole region, and that calls are coming in from the United States to ask for Aruba to be part of their solutions for their waste problems. Ladies and gentlemen, we should be very proud of this island. And we should never doubt. Mr. van der Wulp just mentioned just now that we could have some disputes with the Netherlands a couple of months ago. The disputes are good in order for us to test our ideas and to put our systems to trial, as Jefferson mentioned. Aruba was convinced and is convinced that in a period of crisis, in a moment that you have 15% of decline in your GDP, that your unemployment is at 13%, that your schools are deteriorating, that your cities are no more appealing for people to visit them, that your communities and your neighborhoods don't have roads, don't have lights, and the more poor in your community cannot pay for the daily needs to take care of their children. When a society reaches that point, there are different philosophies, different ideologies in this world. Important Nobel Prize winners discuss these social economic models in order to overcome these challenges. Aruba chose a road. We chose a road that brought light to people living in darkness. We chose a road to reach out to the more poor in our society and give them some extra allowance in order for them to be able to send the kids to school. We chose a road in order to invest, not in volume, but in quality, in order to make sure that our island will have an economy that is sustainable, that we will not be giving more away than we need from our prestigious nature, our beaches, and our people. We chose a road that today is translating into economic growth. One of the few countries within the kingdom that can boast that we have 3 to 4% GDP growth this year, next year, and the year after. One of the few countries in the kingdom that can boast that we went from 13% unemployment to 7% unemployment. And one of the few countries that can boast that during the last couple of years, confronting the economic crisis that hit every part of the world and the kingdom, that the difference between rich and poor has not gotten larger. As a matter of fact, and I hope when studies are done more profoundly of this, will show that the social plans to reach out for those on welfare, for reach out for the mothers that have to take care of more kids than they can handle, that this model has created a fair society, a society that is sustainable. Because societies where the richer get richer and the poorer get poorer are not sustainable. Where there is no care for the elderly, where the children don't have clothing to go to school, are not societies that are sustainable. And we have chosen for what we call sustainable prosperity, a direction that guarantees that both in the area of our ecology, in the area of our nature, we will not be making more claims on the natural space of our island. The Bible is very clear. We have trees that give fruits. We need and we have the opportunity and we have the right to take the fruits, but we have to take care of the tree for the next generation. So Aruba has chosen a model. Other countries have chosen another model to overcome their crisis. And when we speak about the differences of opinion about the models we choose, that doesn't mean that at the end we all want the same thing for our countries. We all want that besides whichever model we choose, that at the end we can guarantee a sustainable progress for our communities. And it is based on the realities of each society which model will work. I cannot say that the model of Aruba will work for Curacao, for Grenada, or Jamaica, as Jamaica or Curacao or the Netherlands cannot say that their model will work for Aruba. But I can say that once we have chosen a model, and I can stand here today as the Prime Minister of Aruba and say that when we are one of the only countries within the kingdom that can talk about economic growth this year, next year, and the day after, and that we are one of the only countries in the kingdom that can say that we went from 13% unemployment to 7% unemployment. Ladies and gentlemen, you did something good, and you should be very proud of it. And it is government. It's the people of Aruba that know when and how to take a position, to have a vision, to have the optimism and the courage to walk these difficult pathways. Because the direction Aruba chose was not an easy one. It was much easier when the crisis hit Aruba again to look into the archives of the menus of former plans in order to deal with the economic crisis of Aruba. We have done it in the past when we decided to build many hotels and converted recession into opportunity and progress. But that path was not the one that we chose for, because we saw that that path created progress but also many challenges for our island. It created also an enormous pressure on our social being, on our citizens, and the social cohesion within our community. It claimed too many of our nice spaces. When I see Mr. Greg Peterson in our room, so concerned about our birds on our island that are being threatened by all the other movements that we have on our island. Those are the expressions that we also heard when we needed to find an answer for what would be the formula for the next economic recovery of Aruba when we confronted the social economic crisis like the rest of the world and like the rest of the kingdom confronted. And we decided Together in this community, we are going to take the difficult path, sustainable prosperity. We're not going to build 10 hotels. People are standing in a line in order to build 5, 10 more hotels on our beautiful beaches. We are going to choose for what in the Netherlands they call so nicely, in order to increase our verdienmodel, to make it that Aruba becomes a nicer place, a cleaner place, a safer place, a place that is an example for the world. How proud are we all today to stand here or to sit here and hear Mr. Kelboom mention today that they're not only getting mails from other Caribbean islands asking them, how are you doing this? But they're getting mails from the United States asking them, how are you doing this? Is this not reason to be proud? This is based on the inspiration that we all have shared for the direction we chose. We motivated, we inspired, not only companies in Aruba, we inspired world NGOs to come to Aruba and embrace us, to work together with us. We inspired the largest research development institute of the Netherlands, TNO, to come to Aruba and establish itself in Aruba because they believed in the vision. They saw the opportunity to work here close to the emerging markets, to work here with people that speak the language of this region, to work here with people that understand the business culture of this region. And TNO came 2 years ago, one employee, Mr. Ebbing, working hard, working with us on our ambition. Today, I'm proud to say TNO has 11 employees, mostly Arubans. A hand of applause for this major accomplishment. So when we look at what we're discussing here today, it is not just business opportunity. Yes, there is a lot of business opportunity, both for the people that understand and have a way of finding how they can be instrumental in bringing these parties together, from Netherlands or from Europe, with an Aruban component, with an eye on the Latin American market. There are many Aruban institutions, companies that have that ability and has that network to bring these parties together and benefit from this development. But when TNO establishes in Aruba, or when Ecotech expands its businesses and starts producing gas to energy, we're not only talking about companies that will be exporting and creating new activities based on new networks in which another company present here tonight is forming part. But these institutions, and I especially think about the small companies that sometimes ask me, but what is in it for me? I don't think that I'll be bringing parties together from the Netherlands and forming a partnership with a company in Latin America. What's in it for me? My friends, the TNOs of this world need someone to paint their walls. They need accountants. They need architects. They need suppliers of paper, of toner. So it's not only for the business that has the ability and the infrastructure to bring parties together, like we heard Mr. Rucruz explain today how they're doing this, but also companies that are in Aruba that will have the opportunity to supply the goods and services that the new establishment will need. And that is the reason why I'm so happy to see so many of the entrepreneurs and the business leaders of Aruba here today, because you have embraced something new. Although maybe it was not clear yet how and where, but it was very clear that we have chosen a direction. And that direction cannot only be led by the community leaders or the government leaders, but we need to do it together. And what we have presented here today is not one vision for prosperity, for business. Yes, there is a lot of opportunity for business and money making. Mr. van der Wulp referred to it with the necessary humor in order also to enlighten and also pass over the more complicated times that we all pass through, about the Reverend and the Koopman. But we cannot have a vision that is purely based on idealism of the good world that the Reverend wants, without also making a business case in order for it to be sustainable. We need to find the balance within business, yes, making the income that businesses need to invest and to prosper, but we also always have to have the eye and the focus that at the end, the economic model that we are standing for needs to translate into well-being. And that is the choice that Aruba has made. Not many countries are putting the emphasis sufficiently, to our opinion, that economic growth will not automatically trickle down. That you have to have policies in which you are very conscious that the choices you make will have to be able to translate into better well-being for our citizens. And Aruba has made those choices. You will be very proud in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, as I am here today, as the grandson of the person that stood 100 years ago in the midst of our community and claimed a harbor for Aruba when many people thought that that would not be something realistic to realize for such a small island with 20,000 people. I'm very proud to be the youngest brother of a prime minister that found Aruba 40% unemployment, half of the income gone, and had a vision how we could expand tourism. Build the largest airport in Aruba when many thought that it was too big. And today I meet the director, and probably we need more gates in order to serve all the tourists coming to Aruba. We need to have an ambition. We need to have an aspiration. And there's something that we are strong in Aruba, is to put a clear object for us somewhere in the future, whether it be status aparte, economic recovery, or social well-being of our citizens. Arubans have always been strong in putting that point on the horizon where we say, that's where we're going. We surpassed many challenges, and we will surpass the challenges that we confront today, tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. But there are very few countries that can say that they have united during the important moments in their history to obtain their constitutional status that they always aspired, to have surpassed economic crises that would have devastated other countries on their own feet. Very few countries can have the pride to say, we never put out a hand to ask no one to pay it for us, but we did it on our own strength. We never asked them either for vision or for money, because we have the pride to do it ourselves. And that is the strength of this Aruban community. You all are sitting here. And my friends, the choices that we have made here today are not only for a sustainable economic development, as so eloquently presented here today. At the core of this choice, there was also a constitutional vision. When we started talking about hub and gateway and win-win opportunity, it was not only because we wanted to create a knowledge economy, which we want to create and which we are seeing that we are making also the strives and results in order to realize that. But we looked at our kingdom very concerned that there was a deterioration of support for the concept of the kingdom. It was very clear that within the kingdom, on both sides of the ocean, many people did not see anymore what the added value was for the Dutch Caribbean to work with the European partner in Europe and for the European partner to work with the Dutch Caribbean. Many factors, emotion, discussion about autonomy on one side, on the other side in the Netherlands, concern about government, concern about immigration, whatever the reasons were deteriorating the concept of the kingdom. And we looked at that in many other parts of the kingdom. There was a lot of discussion, debates over and over, but we decided as Aruba, as we normally do through history, to try to find a solution for this problem. Because Aruba is not in the kingdom of the Netherlands because that after decolonization or after we changed some constellation between 5 islands, we had to choose to be somewhere. Aruba had a very clear choice, not from now, many generations ago, that we saw the value of being within a kingdom for our stability, for our legal security, for our defense. And again, Mr. van der Wulp, not for money, because we have never asked for money, but always we saw the benefit of the stability and the legal security of being within the kingdom. And we were concerned that the kingdom as a concept was losing the support it needed. It needed in Aruba, it needed on the other islands, and it needed within the Netherlands. And Aruba came up with this idea. Again, Aruba. Aruba, when maybe no one was listening, sometimes I refer to it, someone screaming in the desert, said, there is win-win opportunity. There is a new reason why for this kingdom. Not based on a moral obligation of the Netherlands because we were colonized 200 years ago or because there was slavery. No, because we had a new reason why we can work on basis of a strategic vision on what will make it worthwhile for us to work together. And Aruba presented the idea. What about revisiting the ideas? Why people from the Netherlands came 200 years ago here? It was because of the strategic location of our islands. And I joke very often with my Dutch colleagues that although there could have been some shift in what they call the aardkorst, but we didn't move very far from each other, maybe a millimeter or something like that, but we're still there in the same location that we were 200 years ago, why so many people came and utilized the strategic position of our islands. And if we took a new look at this strategic location, we see all these emerging economic markets. Aruba presented the idea to the Netherlands, why don't we all work towards a new kingdom vision? We presented this concept, and in October of 2011, we signed with then Minister Donner the agreement, bilateral agreement between Aruba and the Netherlands that we will be working on this win-win concept in order to capitalize on all the attributes, all the technology, and all the know-how there is in the Netherlands and Europe. Use the Aruban, we couldn't speak for the other islands, use the Aruban opportunity to combine that with knowledge of the area, with the language we speak, with the very entrepreneurial spirit of our community, and make that a success. And today, the list of accomplishments since 2011 is not long enough. I hope I could stand here the whole night and mention the long list of companies that already are targeting this opportunity. But the list is strong enough, and we heard them tonight. It's strong enough to prove that that concept will work. And will not only work for the economic prosperity of Aruba, but I hope when the history books are written about this period in history, they will say that that vision rescued the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Thank you very much.